Here's Gaither off the right side, has room. Gaither might go right up the gut at the 20. Gaither 15 inside the 10. He will score. Touchdown.
Smoky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peter Chevrolet.
Three receivers, Birch, Thomas, and Williams far side. Near side to Great. Fulbright to the right of Mordecai. Here comes the blitz. Mordecai throws a deep out pass. Caught! Kobe Birch! Touchdown!
Here's David Smoke.
Smoky.com's weekly high school football podcast. Armstrong, Sims, Jack McKenzie helping today, as they will throughout the year. You know, guys have asked me to do this. I have a website, Smoky.com. I've owned it like for 20 years. And it's crazy how that grew over the years. And I love Texas high school football. That's kind of where I grew up in the business, back in Lufkin, Texas, and Nacogdoches. And I'd written down some of the teams and memories, but I don't even need to have this down. My first ever game was in November of 1981. Lufkin played Nacogdoches, one of the oldest rivalries in the state of Texas. T.J. Turner was the defensive lineman for Lufkin, went on to play at the University of Houston, highly rated player. I remember shooting some video of that game for Channel 9 in Lufkin and sent that up to the Northeast to Parade All-American because he was their defensive player of the year, or their Parade All-American player of the year, which reminds me of John Tyler's David Warren. Of course, he was a part of that great 94 team that had the incredible game with Plano East. He eventually went on to play at Florida State, was a Super Bowl member in a game the Raiders lost in a Super Bowl game. Great kid, now part of the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame. Garrison's Domingo Bryant, Alto's Fred Thacker, Groveton's Michael Horace. These are some of the young players back in the day when I first started covering Texas high school football. There was, how could I not think about the Dangerfield dynasty in 1983? They outscored opponents 631-8. You know that story. Won it in 83, 14 shutouts, 13 in a row, perhaps, and I think the greatest team of all time. 85 Yates might disagree, among others, in the history of Texas high school football. Along with that, I remember a story I did in 1988, Jamie's season, the 1988 Marshall Mavericks lost to Carter, that great Carter team that had all that controversy at times. Jamie Sexton had leukemia, and I did a story thanks to Dennis Parker and his great football program. But one of the guys that was in that story I did was Odell Beckham Sr., the father of Odell Beckham, the wide receiver who played at LSU and has been a part of the NFL as well. Big Sandy. I didn't cover those great teams in the 70s with David Overstreet, the late David Overstreet, Lovie Smith, Gary Chalk and others, but one of the great teams of all time as well. I mentioned 94 JT and that win against Plano East in that crazy game at Texas Stadium. Reggie McNeil in 01 with Lufkin. Kilgore, they won a state championship with a blocked field goal return for a touchdown in double overtime. And then the games that I did for a long time with Robert E. Lee, now Legacy, and Tyler, with Mike Owens and that team winning the state title against Spring Westfield in 2004. Mart, Lake Travis, Salina, Midland Lee, South Lake Carroll, Lamarck and Katy, some of the great dynasties. I wanted to bring them up. The end of the North Shore Duncanville game, that was insane. One of the great rebuilding jobs in Whitney, Keeling at Wascom, from what they used to be to winning a state title. And it was great to be a part of that La Vega State Championship in 15 when they beat Argyle at NRG Stadium in Houston, and watching Willie Williams and Leroy Coleman and Don Hyde and what it meant to that community as well. We are going to load up a show today. Westlake football coach Todd Dodge, who just like breeds state championships. We're going to hear from Ivan Lopez, who's been through a lot, his family with COVID, from Rogers High School. Matt Stepp, Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine, and also Don Hyde, the football coach at La Vega, will join us in studio. That's what we have coming up on the debut of Smoky.com's Texas High School Football Show. I'm David Smoke, and this is 365 Sports. La Vega High School football team, man, they have been so good. But they've been good over the years as well. Don Hyde, head football coach, joins us in studio. Thanks for being here at 365 Sports. So the season's about to begin. Different than last year, although there's still that COVID that's out there. Can you try to describe the differences between a year ago and even now?
Well, I think a year ago at this time we were wondering if we was even going to play football. And so, just to be out there and be on the field with the guys every day and know that you're going to play the first week is certainly a blessing. Blessing and a curse, I guess you could say. I mean, the pressure of playing games but at the same time being out there and doing something you love with kids you love is very special.
You guys have built a standard, and La Vega's had a lot of coaches in the past that had success, but there was a gap there where they didn't win more than 10 games for a long time. And then Carlos Stone had success, and Willie comes along as well. And now what you guys are doing, it's almost like your quarter semifinals or bust. Not that that's fair. What really changed that became a program that was good and had knocked on the door in 2008 and now one that the standard is as high as it's ever been?
I think our kids just accepted the fact that success don't come without work. And, and they realize, around 2006 is when we really had a breakout year. And then since then we've been in the playoffs every year. And like you said, we played 2 or 3 rounds deep, since then. And the kids just figured out that if you want to have success in August and September and October, November, December, then you got to pay the price January through August. And so our kids just embrace that theory and have continued to embrace it. And we've been very fortunate to have a good run of kids, and they just work hard, and they're not scared of working hard.
71-6 in the last 5 years. I mean, I knew it was good. I knew it was big. 3 state championship appearances. Of course, the great moment when you beat Argyle in the last second and then had to stop a pass at the end. 71-6.
Once again, that's a blessing and a curse. We struggle finding people to play us in non-district as a result of that. But at the same time, I'd rather be in that situation than a situation where everyone's calling you every week and wanting to play you. And so, you talked about maybe the pressure that's associated with that. Well, if you're a coach and you don't put that pressure on yourself, then it don't matter what the outside says. We have internal pressure amongst ourselves and our kids to hold the standard that's La Vega football. And so outside pressure don't bother us. Internal pressure is the thing that keeps you going.
I've always wondered this, and we've seen college football teams that have been knocking on the door, and then they finally win what is the championship, and then they seem to have the ability to win more. Do you feel like once you finally you were able to do that? Now, a lot of teams can win a championship and go back to 500 or barely making the playoffs, but it seemed like it opened everything up. Now, I know you're still searching for another one, but do you feel like that took not pressure, but like allowed you could breathe and just enjoy the game?
I think it's an idea until you do it. Kids see it. Kids of course want to do it, but it's simply an idea until you see it realized. And so, when we realized in 2015, and I can tell you right now, and I'm not trying to blow smoke on anybody, but you take an injury here and there along the course of the time, we very easily could have won 3 or 4 of them.
Yep.
And so, the main thing is once you get in the playoffs, you got to stay healthy. And if you can stay healthy and the ball bounces your way a time or two, then anything can happen. And so, that the number one issue, in my opinion, late in playoffs is the ability to stay healthy.
You were at La Vega a long time, then you left for a little bit, then came back. What did you learn about what you respected more about La Vega when you were gone?
I mean, anytime you look, I left in 2013 season and went back to Gatesville because my son was going to be a freshman and I didn't want to coach against him. And I was back for about 4 or 5 weeks and he decided he didn't want to play football anymore. And, I didn't want to leave La Vega in the first place, but at the same time, family's important to me. And all our coaches' family is important to me. And so that drove me back to Gatesville. And then when he decided he wanted to play, I called Willie back about week 4 and I said, hey, I want my job back. And he said, we'll talk about it later on in the year. And so, the job opened back up and I was fortunate enough to go back over there with him. And, I just being there around those kids, I've been far more blessed from being there than I've blessed people from being there. And so, it's just important to me to stick around there and with people I know and people I respect and people I love, and it's just home to me.
How much did it help you validated as a head coach with what you've had as success? Did it matter to you?
No, not really. I mean, I think, and I think Coach Williams will be the first one to tell you, and it's still that way today. We've always been a partnership. And, he understood that his success had a little bit to do with me, and I realized today that my success has a lot to do with him. And so, it's always been a partnership, and it continues to be a partnership, and it's a partnership that I'll cherish the rest of my life.
So the first one, is it more sweet as an assistant because it was the first one for the school than it was when you were a head coach 3 years later?
The only one I remember today is the one we lost.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, we lost in 19 and we lost in 2008. And the devastation from those two weigh far more heavily on me than the ones we won, because, I know I've left Texas Stadium. I left the old Texas Stadium 2008. We lost.
Yeah, Prosper.
And it was devastating. You worked hard to get there, and then it don't happen. And then 15, we went to Houston down there in the Reliant, I believe it was called back then. And,
yeah.
And we won, and it was joyous and exciting. But as soon as you come off the field, you just think about winning the next one. And then, we won in 18 at Cowboy Stadium, and then we lost in 19. And so the two that stick with me the most are the two we lost.
What I've also been impressed with, and of course had a chance that 15 year, we did a lot of your games and been around and gotten to know you, Willie, all the people that were there, is what it meant to that school district, to Dr. Shields. And it's not just football. That school district, really tight, and I mean really right now is in a great situation.
Well, when you get to a place where people love you and you love people, the people you're around, there's no reason to ever look anywhere else. And so that's the way we consider the Vega family. Dr. Shields is our biggest supporter. Mm-hmm. I've told her several times that I'm not sure you can find a superintendent in Texas as committed to athletics as Dr. Shields is. And just because our kids see that, then they're willing to go the extra mile for her. And we keep her tied into everything we do. I mean, it's important for her to be tied into it. And she backs us 100%. And when she asks us to do something, we're going to do it because she gives us everything we need and everything we have to be successful.
All right, so Katy Jordan is a 6A school. We know how much that area in Houston, Katy, Conroe, all that area has exploded. It's a 6A school. Mike Robbie, the head coach, used to be at Connolly. You know him. How did this game come about? Because I started looking them up. I'm like, my God, they're a 6A school.
Well, I mean, like always, we didn't have a week 1 game for the longest. And so, and we didn't have a week 5 game till probably mid-July. And Coach Robbie, being a new program, decided to play a varsity schedule this year. And so he could play three different teams and called me and said, Coach, would you be willing to play us? And I said, Coach, I'd certainly be willing to play you, but you got to come here because I don't have any home games. And he said, let him look at it and talk to his administration. And he called me back and said, Coach, we can come there. And so, we're just appreciative of the fact that he's willing to come up here and play football and play at our place. And he's a great guy. We played against him when he was at Connolly. And so, I mean, we're familiar with one another, and so it'll be fun.
Don Hyde, La Vega football coach, a couple more questions. You're about to start. That's who your opener's against. Have you done what you've needed to do to get to the point where you need to be who La Vega football's about?
Well, Smoke, from following us from year after year, that we're slow starters. We're just trying to get better every day. We consider these first 5 weeks to be, like preseason in NFL. Mm-hmm. And so all we're focusing on every day is getting better at each position and be better tomorrow than you were today. And so that's what we're going to focus on. And if we do it right, then we expect to win. Now, we're going in the game expecting to win. I'm just telling you. We're going to prepare to win, and we're going to play to win. But at the same time, we understand that if we don't, it's not really about the wins and losses right now. It's about getting better every single week. And so we're hoping by getting better every single week, when it's time and it counts, that we're as good as we can be.
When you're not focused on football and you're not, let's just say, and you mentioned family, what does Don Hyde do to chill out?
Sit in my recliner, and watch football on video, and spend time with my wife, my best friend. She's very important to me, extremely. Best coach's wife in the state of Texas.
That's a big deal, man. I mean, they got hours that are just unheard of themselves. Thanks for your time, man. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
La Vega football coach Don Hyde won a couple of state titles as an assistant in 15, won it all as a head coach in 18, and yet he talks about the one that got away in 2008 and 2019. This is 365 Sports.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me. Genco is my credit union. They're always there for me. They're people I trust. They treat me My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com. We're joined by Matt Stepp, Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine. I remember when Matt first got into the business of covering Texas high school football, and now one of the authorities in the state of Texas and what he does with Bally Sports and the magazine and covers games, has this list of games every week. He's everywhere. How did you get into this, Matt? Now that we start, first of all, thanks for being a part of the debut show. What did you just start covering games? And I know there was that mafia that a lot of guys were involved with. How did you get into this?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on. It's an honor to be on the inaugural show with you guys. Do a heck of a job always down there, and not only covering Baylor and Central Texas, but high school football. And I know, David, high school football has always been an important part of your life, so it's awesome to talk and just hang out with people who love high school football as much as I do. And I think that's really why I got into covering high school football. I don't have a journalism background or anything like that. I was just always a high school football nut. It was something that me and my dad did. As a kid, we couldn't afford to go to TCU. I'm from Fort Worth, so we couldn't afford to go to TCU games or, heaven forbid, a Dallas Cowboy game. Mm-hmm. So what we could afford was to go watch the Everman Bulldogs play high school football down the street, and so that's what we did on Friday nights. And those guys were like heroes to me, and I think that's probably where my love of high school football started. And I started in the business just as a message board poster. Yep. If you remember the old Pigskin Prep back in the late '90s, early 2000s, kind of came out, and I just started posting there. And eventually some guys that worked for at the time, Rivals.com, said, hey, this guy, his predictions come true a lot more than he's wrong. And he seems to know what he's talking about. He's done some homework, and it kind of, I never got paid the first 2 years a dime. I just got media credentials. And I thought going to high school football games was the coolest thing in the world, to get into a game for free and maybe sit in the press box with real sports writers. Was kind of, I thought it was awesome. And that's really where my journalism training came in, talking to those veteran sports writers, and learning kind of the ins and outs of the business. And I got better as a writer over time and that kind of thing. So that's really how I got started. And I think I just kind of got in at the right time when the internet was first growing, and just, I love high school football, and it doesn't seem like work to me. It's a lot of fun. So I think that's my passion comes out in that.
Well, you helped me in a way, and I'll tell you why. One, it's always fun to watch and what you're doing, but I used to try to stay on top of coaching changes, as you know, and now I don't have to, because you're going to beat me to it every single time.
Not all the time. You still beat me. You still beat me a few times. You still get me a few times.
Maybe 3 times a year, but it used to be something I was kind of consumed with it, because I couldn't stand if I didn't, especially when I was in the East Texas area or now Central Texas. But so have you counted how many games you've attended? I know what you do weekly, yearly, whatever. Is that something you've kept up with?
So I didn't really start keeping good records till when I joined Dave Campbell's Texas football back in August of 2016 was really when I started keeping more detailed records. I knew what teams I had seen and and what stadiums I'd been to, but I didn't really count up the number of games that I've been to. But I mean, I'd say I've been doing this, I've been going to, games pretty regularly since 2004, I would say, is when I really got into it full bore and started going to games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that kind of thing. So since 2004, I'd say I've pretty consistently going to at least 60 games a year.
Yep.
Since 2004. That doesn't count all the games I went to as a kid, and I mean, I'm probably over 1,000, I'd say, at this point.
Well, that doesn't include the championship week when you're going to watch 3 or 4 or 5 games a day, whatever it is, at the time as well. All right, favorite story of covering a game where you locked in the press box, they turned the lights out, the gates were locked. Everybody has a story like that. Do you have one like that?
Yeah. Gosh, it must have been 2012, I guess, Kennedale. I was doing a game. Kennedale was playing Kaufman, I want to say, and I was stringing also, for making a little extra money for the Dallas Morning News and the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. I was double dipping. So I had two gamers to write. Me being I wasn't going to write the same gamer for the same different newspapers. So I tallied up my stats and wrote my gamer for the Morning News, and then wrote my gamer for the Star-Telegram, and sent everything in, and all that good stuff. And by the time I'm done, stadium's locked. Yep. Stadium lights are out. There is no one in the press box. The elevator worked, thankfully. Got down to the elevator, and iron gates to the stadium are locked. And it's pitch black. I mean, it is dark. And I see there's a 6-foot fence there, and I'm a former athlete, and I was a little younger back then, so I just said, well, I got to hop the fence. Every sports writer's got to do it at some point. And so I hopped the fence, but what I don't realize, on the other side of the fence was a slope. It wasn't an even, it's pitch black. You're not anticipating a slope. And so I hopped the fence and jumped down and hit that slope, and then my knee buckled something serious. And I think that I may have done a little damage to my knee, because it hurt it basically hurt for the rest of football season at some point. So that's my first one. The other great story I have is, I don't know if you remember, it may have been 5 or 6 years ago, we had just a deluge of rain. And this is when Ennis and Lufkin were in the same district. And Lufkin was playing at Ennis in a district ball game, and it was storming. And Lufkin could not get up I-45 into Ennis because Richland Chambers Reservoir had flooded onto I-45, and Lufkin got stuck. And Ennis decided, Coach Quick and Coach Alvarez at Ennis decided, instead of coming back at Saturday and playing, they would just flip a coin to decide a district ball game. And they flipped a coin over the phone, and I sat there and watched as Jack Alvarez and the Ennis Lions lost a district ball game to Lufkin based off a coin flip. And he was not a happy camper, but he agreed to it. So it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and Jack now is at Cuero. He was at Copper's Cove for a short stint, and Todd Quick had the tough task of taking over for the legend in John Outlaw, and with the Lufkin Panthers. They open up against Legacy coming up this week. Yeah, I remember, because I, of course, older and started covering high school football in November of 81, that a coin flip could decide somebody's future. A playoff game, as far as not just where you play, but teams in districts, because there was no overtime, and there were ties, and there were penetrations and first downs, and I just always thought that was insane. But you're talking about a district game. I don't remember that part.
Yeah. I mean, my sophomore year at Everman, we were in the second round of the playoffs the year before overtime got instituted, and we lost to Seagaville in the area round of the playoffs 20-20, and we lost on first downs because penetrations were tied as well. And Seagaville advanced to play Sulphur Springs in the regional semifinals, and when Sulphur Springs had Damian Lewis and Kwesi Palmer and those guys. Yeah. That was a great Sulphur Springs team. So my sophomore year at Everman, we lost a playoff game on first down. So I'm really happy we have overtime now, because it's a lot better way to decide a football game than on first downs or total yards or anything crazy like that.
What are your thoughts about Class 7A, if in fact that's what they do at some point?
Yeah, I think it's not needed now. but it's needed. It's going to be needed as we grow. I mean, there's only so many spots in a 32 district classification, in 6A and 5A. 5A is 2 divisions, but it's 32 districts. You've only got a finite number of spots before it starts to get full. And it's about 500 roughly. And we're busting at the seams at the 5. We're over 500 in those 2 classifications right now. And as you know, they don't build new schools as 2A and 3A schools. As new schools are built, they're 5A and 6A schools. And what happens is it inflates that 5A and 6A number. And what happens is those small 5As keep getting pushed down to 4A. And that gap between the big and the small and 4A just continues to grow. I mean, in Class 4A, the biggest schools now are well over 1,200. Alice has 1,230 kids, and they're in the same classification with schools that are in the low, 515.
Yeah.
And as you know, the difference between a school of 500 kids and 1,000 kids is, to me, a lot greater than the difference between a school between 2,000 kids and 4,000 kids. There's diminishing returns as enrollment grows to some point. So I do think as we grow, because we're adding in 2022, 10 more 6A and 5A schools are getting added. 2024, we'll probably see 10 more added. So I think in 24 or 26, we will see 7A, and it may not be 32 districts right away. I think 7A may start out as a 16 district classification to start, and then they'll kind of grow it as the state grows.
What are you looking forward to most, at least a storyline or two this year? Obviously, the COVID from last year, they still found a way. The UIL, I thought, was brilliant in how they handled it. Their team's trying to win. Austin Westlake's trying to win 3 in a row. We know that others are trying to win multiple, whatever, and some bouncing back to win again. What is there one or two in particular, the storylines you're looking at?
I think the biggest one is Todd Dodge at Westlake.
Yeah.
If he's going to go out with this, I think he might be the first coach in history, if they can win it again, to three-peat at 2 different schools. So definitely, he's a legend, and his kind of farewell tour will be fun to watch. Last year it was really a blue blood year. The programs that had that continuity because of COVID and all that went into it, and the truncated off season. The blue bloods really dominated last year. I'm interested to see if we have any newcomers come up, and because we had a more normal off season, we're not 100% normal. We're still having cancellations and things are still a little up in the air, but it's more normal than it was last year. If anybody can kind of break through and kind of break that ceiling that the blue bloods have had in 2020, and then our Carthage and Aledo, seeing if they can continue their incredible run of dominance in 5A and 4A. Over recent years, I'll be keeping a close eye on them as well.
Why do you think, Matt Stepp, Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine, my final question coming off what you just said, why do you think we see now more dynasties, more of them, a lot of them at one point rather than the 50s and maybe the 70s or whatever? It seems like we're seeing a ton of teams just dominate.
Yeah, I think part of it is the fluidity of society now. I think, back in the 50s, it wasn't as easy to pick up and go move into an area, if you wanted to be a part of a football program. And I think now people at younger ages have access to a lot more data, and if you're a young family and you've got a 7th or 8th grade son who's a really good football player, you can easily move him into a place like Aledo or Austin Westlake or Lake Travis or places like that, Katy, et cetera, because we're a lot more fluid as a society. People work remotely now. People aren't tied to jobs anymore. There's the apartments are plentiful, those kind of things. So people can get up and move a lot easier. And I think that's part of it. And I think you see those programs really take the Odessa Permian model from the 70s and 80s and kind of take that model and improve on it and make it more modern and make it to today and make it fit today's athlete and the things we have in place today. Yeah,
in fact, what Westlake's trying to do is Midland Lee with Cedric Benson. We know they had their run. Abilene in the 50s had their run. And then oh, my goodness, I went blank on somebody else that had their run as well. But as far as the higher level, South Lake Carroll's had a three-peat before.
And Allen with Kyler
Allen,
Murray.
yeah,
And the three-peat,
there you go. With Kyler Murray and Allen, how could I forget that? That was pretty recent. Matt, great talking to you. Thanks for being a part of it. Love what you do. You can follow Matt Stepp. Tell everybody how they can follow you on Twitter, because it is absolutely worth it if you're a high school football fan.
You can put up with my terrible Oriole takes, because we're a terrible team these days. But yeah, it's at Matt_Stepp. It's Matt_Stepp. Matt with 2 T's, Stepp with 2 P's, 817.
Yep, and again, coaching changes, cancellations. I've seen you having to do those, unfortunately, this week as well, but not nearly as many, thank goodness. Not nearly so far.
We're at a much lesser pace than we were last year, so fingers crossed that keeps dropping.
All right, man. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you. Matt
Thanks for what you guys do.
You too. Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine. This is 365 Sports.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me. Genco is my credit union. They're always there for me. They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
Ivan Lopez Jr., he's a senior at Rogers High School, running back and linebacker, joins us on 365 Sports. So, man, the season's about to start. You play Academy. Ivan, what has it been like the last 2 or 3 weeks as you guys get ready for this game? And what's the atmosphere at Rogers High School?
We've been working hard. Been working real hard. Practice every day. Come up here at 6:30 to live.
And you know what? You guys had a great run at the end of last year. I know it didn't start very well. I think you were like 2-5, and then you won a few games 5 in a row, got to the third round, lost to Buffalo, who was very good last year, lost to them a couple of different times. How much, and can you describe how you ended last year, helped the offseason to have more hunger or hungrier this year?
Well, we worked really hard during the offseason, and that's when my mom passed away. I wasn't really here. I was with my family a lot and worked at home, try to get better for this season.
How much could you do? How much dealing with the loss of your mother, but how much could you actually get done? And was that a time, in a way, can you describe if that allowed you to kind of not stop thinking about her, but maybe just vent a little bit?
Thought about her a lot, man. I did a lot of football. She always used to come watch my games. Mm-hmm. And when I play, I just think about her, how she wanted me to play.
What did your mom think about you when you first started playing football? Was that something she supported, or was it something she had to kind of get used to? Did she say much to you back then?
Yes, sir. She always wanted me to play football. I have an older brother that played football.
Yep.
And she always looked up to me to play football. So she always thought I was going to be a lineman. But here I am now, running back and linebacker.
All right, either way, you get to hit somebody. If you're a running back, you get to run over somebody that tries to tackle you, and then as a linebacker, you get to try to run over a running back. So kind of if you were to be on the field and you played against yourself, can you describe what happens if you meet each other in the hole, as you a linebacker and you as a running back?
We'd probably collide and probably not go nowhere. Probably just stay there.
Just a standoff, right?
Yes, sir.
You played special teams a lot last year, and you got a little bit of a chance to get the ball. I think you had 70-something yards rushing. You were involved a little bit at linebacker. Why are you better, besides just older and more experienced? What makes you feel like this year you're going to be even better?
I really worked harder to get to where I am, play harder. My mom always wanted me to start, and back then I never used to start. I used to be a second string. Mm-hmm. They always held me at second string, and then when it was my turn, I tried to shine.
So you mentioned your mother. She passed away, I think, in January, and it was COVID. And this is something that has affected your family in ways I've never heard. Your mother, your grandmother, you have 4 aunts and uncles have all been affected and passed away. Can you try to even in any way describe what that's been like?
It's been hard. It was mainly because of my grandpa's family. They all had COVID. Just a few weeks ago, my uncle had COVID, my 2 uncles, but they got out of it. My grandma, glad she got out of it. And my grandma and grandpa both had it at the same time, but my grandpa had it worse.
What did you learn about life in the last 12 to 16 months?
It's short. Spend every time you can with your parents, uncles, grandfathers.
If you could, Friday, before you open that game with Academy, do you feel like you're going to have the presence of your mother with you? Can you even think that way?
Yeah, sure. Even during scrimmages, I feel like she's there watching me, yelling at my name.
What is she
telling me to run?
Yeah,
when I'm running slow.
So what's she saying to you?
She's always like, "Go, Alex." They used to call me Alex because they don't really like call me Alejandro, so they call me Alex. And she's always like, "Go, Alex." And I'm slow, but she thinks I'm running fast.
Mamas always think the best, right?
Yes, sir.
Did she ever have any kind of a saying or a nickname for you at all?
She used to call me Alex, but in Spanish, she used to call me a pendejo. Or at home. It kind of means stupid.
In a loving way, though, right, Ivan?
Yes, sir.
All right. So
yes,
when kind of describe when you were growing up. And I mean, all of us as kids, we do things we shouldn't do. We get mischievous. We do things that are sometimes just knucklehead things. Give me an idea of what your mother would do when you did something you know you should not do. Can you kind of give us a little bit of a history on that?
Well, there's a lot of things I used to do when I was little. I used to make her mad a lot. I'd always fight my brothers and them. She'd hit me with the belt, and I'd get up again and go fight with them more. All of my sisters. But I've learned not to fight with them. This is probably what my mom wanted us not to do, is fight with each other.
So you're finally listening?
Yes, sir.
Why is math class your favorite class in school?
I'm pretty good at math. I've always been good at math since I was younger.
So did it just kind of come to you? You're pretty good about that? It's just in your head? You know, people either get math or they don't.
Well, my mom and my dad are pretty good at math. My mom's in taxes. She did taxes
right
for all the years. And my dad, he does concrete and all that and roofing. So they kind of had to have the math in their head to do it all.
San Francisco 49ers, when did you start liking them and why?
When I was younger, my grandpa used to like them. And he was a 49ers fan. My dad, my mom, my brothers, sisters, basically because of Joe Montana. When he used to play with them. And Colin Kaepernick, my dad used to like him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them, they used to play. Jerry Rice.
Oh, yeah. And do you play them on PlayStation when you're playing video games? Can you do that? Are they even available in that game?
Well, if you make them, but
yeah,
right now you just play with the regular people who are on there. But yeah, I play a lot of PlayStation. I play against my brother. I beat him a lot. He's not that good. He gets mad and wants to quit.
So you've mentioned all of what we've talked about, you and I, what you've been through. Football season. What will it mean to you if Rodgers, the Eagles, and you have a successful year? How much will that not help overcome the loss of your mother, but what will it mean if you could have a good year?
It mean a lot. It means to me like I made my mama happy and my grandpa. My grandpa, he's a pastor, but they don't really like to watch football games because I guess in church they said that they didn't want to watch that. But my grandma comes every once in a while and she tries to cheat it out a little bit. Mm-hmm. She tries to come watch me. She calls me a big boy because I'm pretty big and I play running back. She calls me a big boy. She can't really see, but she sees how big I am running down the field. It makes me happy whenever she's smiling.
That's great to hear. Alex Lopez Jr. is with us on 365 Sports from Rogers High School, running back and linebacker. I've asked you about what you've learned, and you've discussed that about COVID and all the losses and those who have had to deal with it. How important was it? Can you explain how the city, the town of Rogers, rallied around you and the family over the last few months?
They helped a lot. Everybody came by and everything. They helped me a lot. They cheered me up to come because at first I didn't want to come play football. I didn't want to play at all. I didn't want to do anything. But some of the guys, they helped me up to come play.
What did that mean to you?
It meant a lot. How they're there for me and everything. Mm-hmm. It means that they're there for me. They got my back. And they know I got their back over everything.
Not just because you play football, but because they care for you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Ivan, God bless. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Telling your story. We appreciate your time. Ivan, Alex Lopez from Rogers High School, running back and linebacker on 365 Sports. Great season for you. Good luck Friday against Academy, and thanks for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
365 Sports continues in a moment.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me. Genco is my credit union. They're always there for me. They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com. And we're back, and I tell you what, this is fantastic. The first show, the first Texas high school podcast that we're going to do this year. is Todd Dodge, legendary high school football coach, former Texas quarterback, and, of course, has been in the college game and coming off back-to-back state championships. You've done that before. You've had to repeat, and now you're going to try to do another three-peat or whatever I'm allowed to say. Pat Riley might want to sue me for the three-peat thing. But, Todd, what is it like? Is there a change? Do you change the message? You just keep doing what you do?
Well, as the off season progressed and the polls started to come out, I always tell our players, there are people who have to do jobs in this world, and some people have to make predictions, and they have to put polls out there and all that. And and we're flattered that someone thinks that maybe we're one of the top teams in the state. But if they do, if they want to put that on us, then what I encourage my players to do day in and day out is if someone thinks that we are the number one team in the state, I don't know if we are or not. We hadn't even played a game yet. But if someone thinks we are, why don't we try to go act like it day in and day out? So that's the motivation, and the fact that, someone did a little research and history on this, and in the highest classification in Texas high school football, a three-peat has only been done on 4 different occasions. And I believe that was the Abilene dynasty back in the 50s. You've got the legendary Midland Lee teams, and then South Lake Carroll, and then Allen. So it's been done before, but not very often. And so, we just encourage our players. We have all been a part of back-to-back, but that does not make this team a champion yet. And so, but let's try to go act like it. So that's kind of the message that we send in.
When you started your career back in the day, and you got an opportunity to kind of maybe flourish with Coach Poe when you were at McKinney, and he gave you what actually did you talk to him about maybe giving you more freedom of changing up what they were doing offensively?
Yeah, well, when I was at McKinney, and it's the greatest thing that ever happened to me in the second year of coaching is to go work for a guy like Ron Poe. But we were running the eye, and we're really good. McKinney had been really good through the years, but we'd gotten a little bit stagnant offensively, missed the playoffs a few years, and ironically, his identical twin brother, Don Poe, was the head football coach at South Garland, and my former head football coach in high school, Ronnie Thompson, was his offensive coordinator, and they were lighting it up. And so, one of the twins, was he was a lot more willing to listen to go into the spread since his brother's team at South Garland was lighting it up. And so we switched, and boy, our kids took to it, and the first one that we had, was Max Nockey. I think probably some TCU fans probably remember that name.
Todd, does the spread offense help teams that don't? I'm not saying that you don't have talent. Obviously you do, but does the spread offense allow people or teams that may not have the raw talent or the really deep talent to compete on an every week basis?
I think it absolutely does, through the years. I think, if you really, did your research, you look back to the 60s and 70s and maybe even into the 80s where there was a lot of influence, with maybe one guy being really productive, or maybe one running back and the quarterback being really productive on offense. What the spread offense does is if you're pretty good at it, it makes you difficult to defend by personnel, meaning you get, if you've got 4 wide receivers, a running back and a quarterback, you got 6 different guys that, what we've always tried to do is make sure that all 6 of those guys have to be defended. And when you do have an offense that they all have to be defended, you got a chance to be, tough and being able to move the football.
Your first head coaching job was at Yo, right?
Sure was, yes.
What stories can you tell me about the little, trailer on the superintendent's land that you and Riley stayed at?
Yeah. Well, we got the job in probably late January 1994. I was the quarterback coach at the University of North Texas at the time. moved immediately. Riley and I did immediately to Cameron, and for 2 weeks we slept in the field house. I had a couch in my office, and I slept on the couch, and I got a little, pallet for Riley on the floor. And I tell you, those are some of the fondest memories that we have as father and son, is those 2 weeks, because every afternoon he was like a kid in a candy store. He would run around the field house, and I'd unlock the equipment room, and he'd come out. He'd have a helmet on. He'd have shoulder pads on. He was about 5 years old at the time. And then not too long after we'd been in there a couple of weeks, the school board president comes by and says, "Hey, you can't be staying in the field house." And I said, "Well, why not? That's kind of what coaches do." My wife, my baby girl hadn't gotten here yet. She goes, we've got an RV, and y'all come live in it. And that's so for the next, 3 months, Riley and I, we call it our 3-month camp out.
What were the oatmeal baths about?
Well, when you're got your first head coaching job, and you got your 5-year-old son with you, and he gets the chicken pox, you probably need to take him to mom. And so I tried to treat him and tried to give him oatmeal baths and stuff like that, but like in the middle of the night, it was probably 8:00 on a random Tuesday or Wednesday night. And so I loaded him up in the car, and we headed back to Denton, and I dropped him off about 11 o'clock at night, turned around and came back to Cameron to be back for the next morning. So yeah, he got chicken pox on my watch. And so I promptly took him back to mama on that one.
How much do you now remember about the Power Rangers? Because that was a one-channel deal there for a while, and he said he was thrilled to death, and you weren't real happy.
Yep, we had one channel, and every morning we'd sit there and eat cereal before I took him to his kindergarten, and he'd watch Power Rangers. And there was one other show, I can't remember what that other show was he'd watch, but we got one channel, and both of them, I think one was a cartoon in the morning, one was cartoon in the afternoon that he got to watch. I didn't get to watch a whole lot.
Westlake head football coach Todd Dodge with us again on this weekly high school football podcast. He has told me that time, and then his junior year when he had ribs that were damaged and his ankle was hurt, that you and him, the two of you, drove all over the place, finding ways to try to heal his ankles, finding ways to try to, he told me one game that, he had to take a shot to the ribs to kind of get back out on the field. And that was also the year you won a state championship. You realize how much of an impact you had on him?
Yeah, well, the one thing that Riley always understood is the best ability that you have is availability. And Riley was one of those players that was always willing to do whatever it took to be available to play. And so, yeah, we went through that junior year against Odessa Permian. He got some cracked ribs in the first quarter. Went inside, got that taken care of, and then the next series when he came back, he got a really high ankle sprain, went back in to the dressing room, got that taken care of. And so all the way through the playoffs that year, he was really banged up, but he played really well. And then that was one of the issues, when we got to state championship, I had not run him in 3 weeks. Let's see, the fourth round and the fifth round, he was, his ankle was like he had a cast on it every game. At about the time we got to state championship, it started to get better where he could run some, and he threw up in the state championship game and then threw a touchdown pass. Part of that was because he just gassed. He was running around making plays with his feet in the championship game, and then he threw up there. Yep. Of course that play is kind of legendary, with his touchdown pass.
He has a heck of a team again. You guys, of course, met for the state championship, and you have a quarterback in Cade Klubnik going to Clemson. He's got another year left with you, a great player. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, have you and Riley talked much about how college has changed in the NIL and how it could affect Texas high school football?
Yeah, we definitely have. Riley lived it up close and personal. His quarterback and is the first one to actually reclassify and go early to college, I guess, so you can take advantage of the NIL. And so, he got thrown a wrench, there about 3 weeks ago. But I've been talking with him every day, just like we always do. They had a scrimmage against Arlington the other night, and his young quarterback, who'll be a junior, did a fantastic job. And with my young man, with Cade, we're just real. I'm real honest. We got a great relationship, and he's really just about, Coach. I mean, I'm gonna here in about 150 days, I'm going to be at Clemson. We've already planned on graduating early. He goes, I'm not worried about any of that stuff. He goes, I'm fixing to pour myself into this Westlake football season and see if we can't get something special done. And that's really been his attitude all along. I've been so proud of Cade, because you never know what, 30 Division I football offers are going to do to a kid's head. Is he just going to lose his mind and, just abandon his teammates and so forth and so on? It dang sure hadn't happened with Cade Klubnik.
Todd, is it coaching or is it talent that is successful?
Oh, it's always the Jimmies. It's always the Jimmies and the Joes. I really believe that. It's coaching. I always tell our guys, told them the other day, I said, we can go do something really special. There's a blueprint if y'all will be willing to follow the blueprint. There's a daily blueprint, there's a weekly blueprint, there's a monthly, there's a yearly that we have in place, and it has been successful. It's produced 6 state championship teams over a 14-year window. But I tell them all the time, I said, don't make any bones about it. You can have the greatest plan in the world, the greatest blueprint, if you don't have players. And I said, we have players. And I always make sure they understand that. I like our roster. I mean, I like, the players that we have. I like our return players. I like our young talent. I said, so let's don't waste. And I said, there's a lot of teams across the state of Texas who have a tremendous amount of talent, a lot more than we do. They probably look a lot better than we do getting off the bus. But do they have, that plan, that blueprint? And so that's where we are right now. But it's definitely you got to have players win.
You are part of the tradition of Texas high school football. Todd Dodge of Westlake with us. A couple more questions. And you're starting off at one of the most tradition-rich places in the state, Temple. Scott Stewart and them have had a great run. That's a very unique – I love that matchup. I don't know the last time Westlake and Temple even met, if they ever have. But that's a pretty good, salty start.
Well, we actually when I got to Westlake 8 years ago, of course I got the job in the springtime, so the realignment and the schedules had already happened. So we've faced Temple since we've been here in 2014 and 2015, which were my first 2 years, and both of them were just knockdown dragouts. I mean, it was two great games at our place the first year and over at Wildcat Stadium the second year. And so, yeah, I'm a bit of a Texas high school football historian. I recruited Temple back in my early years at North Texas the first time, so got through there and was able to kind of witness their 1993, I think it was 93, maybe 91 state championship.
Yep, 92, yeah.
Was it 92 or 90, whatever year that was, and Coach McQueen was still the head coach at the time, and just have so much respect for Temple. I mean, that beautiful stadium, if you're someone who ever has to travel from Austin to Dallas, you pass that beautiful stadium. And, we're looking forward to heading over there. They've got a tremendous football team with a ton of speed. And so we're going to have a great week of preparation.
What do you remember most, the wins or the losses?
I wish I could say it was the wins. Unfortunately, and I hate that it's like this, but for some reason that those losses are the ones that stick out. That you can't get out of your head. And fortunately, through the years, there have been some really fantastic wins that have kind of. I guess taken the sting out of those losses, but I'd be lying if I said that those. I wish it wasn't like that. I wish I was built a little bit differently, but unfortunately, those sting of those losses sometimes haunt you.
One more thing, Todd. When you got out of coaching at the college level, and I know you had other opportunities as well, but you kind of wanted that one more opportunity or two. Marble Falls, of course, worked out, and now you're at Westlake. Did the time in college help you become even more or cherish winning even more and maybe reinvigorate you to get back to that point?
No doubt, David. I mean, you know, when I got called by the University of North Texas to come interview for their head coaching job, you know, after my time there, it probably would have been better for me in my college coaching career for them to have called me to talk about maybe a offensive coordinator's position, you know, but they weren't calling me for that. They were calling me to be the head coach. And so it had been pretty foolish for me not to go listen to that. And that was, you know, obviously financially it was a great situation for my family, and it has been as the years have gone on. But from a standpoint of you going from, you know, from the success that we had at South Lake Carroll and then going to North Texas. And frankly, I was those, you know, 4 years that I spent there, I think made me such a better coach. And it did make me hungrier once we got back. But I've got some players, you know, that I coached there at North Texas, and I hate the fact that we didn't win near enough games. Obviously, we didn't win enough because they fired me. But I've got so many great memories of those kids. And right now it's a pretty cool deal because I've got a whole lot of those guys right now that are coaching Texas high school football that played for us at North Texas during that window. And I'm really proud of North Texas where they are now and the success that they're having. Coach Luttrell has done a great job there. And so, you know, but it absolutely, it made me a better football coach. I mean, I've had the opportunity to go into, you know, to Oklahoma. I've coached against Coach Stoops, coached against, you know, I've coached against Coach Saban, you know, I've coached against, you know, Dabo Sweeney, you know, and you know, when you play at North Texas or you coach at North Texas, you get a chance to make Murderers Row. We went to Oklahoma, LSU, Alabama, and Clemson. Those were the four openers in the 4 years that I was the head coach there.
Todd, thank you as always, man. It's always great. Appreciate you being a part of this debut show. Good luck against Temple and also trying to get yet another championship.
Thank you, David. Appreciate you having me on.
Todd Dodge, head football coach at Westlake.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me. Genco is my credit union. They're always there for me. They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
Every week, I can't wait to give you this list. And thanks to Jerry Forrest, pigskinprep.com. He's got all these stats and data from private schools to six-man football, which is Class 1A, all the way up to the big boys in 6A. Here is what we'll do every week, and thanks again to Jerry Forrest. He's taking, based on his data, you'll see this list on the left-hand side is a district that's attached to the first team. Then there's the district on the right. So in other words, the first line. In District 13 1A, which is six-man, May is the third-ranked team in the state. They play Borden County. That's the second-ranked team in the state. And they're from District 4 1A. And then on the right-hand side, where you see combined rank, that is the two schools' ranking combined, that means the lower the number, the higher rated game. Combined rank of 5, just like Westbrook and Motley County. 4 of the best six-man or Class 1A teams in the state of Texas meeting each other in week 1. And then the number that says favored by, that's next to a team in black, for example, Longview and Denton Ryan. Ryan's a 4-point favorite, according to Jerry Forrest, pigskinprep.com. That's who's favored based on that particular column. South Lake Carroll, 15-point pick at Highland Park. That's a great tradition game as well, the history of Highland Park. So those are the games of the week. And there may be 16 one week, or there might be 12, but this is it. This is the opening week. These are some amazing games. So you have the 2 six-man games. Longview at Denton Ryan. Lobos trying to bounce back. Hey, they finally won it all 2 years ago. They'd been tired of hearing about 1937. Now they can always talk about John King. What a great dude he is with the Lobos, and his son Haynes, who might be starting for A&M at quarterback. South Lake Carroll, coming off that championship appearance, Highland Park. Then you have Salina, Melissa. So these are the games. I'm interested. That Franklin Lorena game in 3A ought to be interesting. That game's at Lorena. I saw Lorena's not new stadium, but what they have in a midway scrimmage with Shoemaker this past week. So you have all these games. The one that's interesting, that Grandview-Malakoff game, about midway down, and Malakoff a 4-point favorite. They finally got Grandview last year. I watched that game at Waco ISD Stadium. Shiner, that in Hallettsville. What a great game that is. And then how about Carthage going up a level against 5A Crosby? He had that great run last year in the playoffs. Carthage and what Scott Surratt's done is truly unbelievable. They were always pretty good, and then Scott Surratt made them great. There's that Martin game at Lake Travis down the road. North Shore and Shadow Creek, a couple of great teams in the Houston area. There's a 4A game with Sweetwater and Stephenville. And then how about Rockwall and Cedar Hill? That game, one of the best combined numbers, and then Reagan and Brennan down in the San Antonio area. So those are games, thanks to Jerry Forrest. Again, these are the highest-ranked teams playing each other, and then the combined rank is what their rankings are combined to kind of give you an idea per pigskinprep.com on the elite games. And there's some rivalry games, like, for example, the game between Gilmer and Gladewater. Gladewater now 3A, Gilmer 4A. That's a great clash in East Texas. So there's some games outside of that, of course, that are going to be of interest as well. So thanks again to Jerry Forrest. We'll pop one of these up every single week to close it out. All right, and a lot of people to thank, of course, thanks to our guest today, but thanks to Jack McKenzie and Armstrong Sims behind the scene. What we have here at 365 Sports is crazy. They asked me to do, crazy good, by the way. They asked me to start doing a high school podcast. I started covering the game, as I mentioned at the start, in November of 1981, and here we are 40 years later in 2021. It's so hard to imagine, and I can't wait to come back next week and bring you what we can bring you to talk about Texas high school football. I'm David Smoke. For everyone I've mentioned, 365 Sports.